London, 1935. In a locked room at the Bethlehem Royal Hospital Archive sits a case file marked only Patient 8753, male, age 42. Self-identifies as Wolf. The file contains yellowed observation notes, 2 broken restraints, and a photograph blurred at the mouth, as if the subject moved while the shutter clicked. Orderlies said he refused light during full moons. Everyone thought it was just another delusion, until nurses began hearing low growls from the locked ward. A decade later, in California, screenwriter Kurt Siodmak would write The Wolf Man after visiting these archives, describing a curse that reflected isolation more than transformation. He told a journalist, "I wanted a man who believed the beast was himself." Hollywood softened the records, but the case file remains, sealed in glass beside a handwritten apology from the last attending doctor. Underneath, a typed note reads, "Lunar behavior unresolved, Paris, 1852. The Hôpital de la Salpêtrière stood gray against winter skies as Dr. Jean-Étienne Esquirol recorded the case of Jean-Marie Blanchard, a printer's apprentice admitted after attacking a neighbor's livestock. The ledger pages, preserved now behind museum glass, detail how Blanchard insisted coarse hair grew through his skin during certain lunar phases. His teeth, he claimed, could rend metal. The ink has faded, but Esquirol's assistant wrote clearly, "He howls when unobserved." Esquirol classified it not as demonic possession, but as monomanie du loup, a fixation on wolves. The diagnosis was revolutionary. The doctor saw pathology where others saw mythology. The sound of his pen scratching against paper seemed to echo through the ward. Local newspapers mocked the incident. Street vendors sold pamphlets titled The Paris Wolfman, though court documents revealed Blanchard had suffered trauma after a foundry explosion. His fiancée had died 3 days before his first transformation. The archive still holds a lock of hair tested in 1937, human, with no anomalies. Even skeptics admitted a strange pattern in the medical notes. Blanchard's outbursts coincided perfectly with the lunar cycle. The hospital director ordered blackout curtains installed. In his final report, Esquirol wrote, "The mind creates its own monsters, but the calendar gives them shape." Vienna, 1898. Gaslight flickered across leather-bound case files at the University of Vienna's Institute for Psychiatry. Dr. Ernst von Schrenk-Notzing reported 3 patients exhibiting what colleagues termed wolf fixation. The wooden floors creaked beneath his feet as he documented the most severe case, Amalia Kraus, a governess who claimed she had been punished to remember the wolf inside. Her drawings, many preserved in the Sigmund Freud Museum, show a hybrid face, half woman, half snarling animal. The paper bears indentations where she pressed too hard with charcoal, as if trying to carve the image rather than draw it. Sigmund Freud referenced, "These cases in correspondence to Wilhelm Fliess, dated November 1899. A photograph of the letter shows his precise handwriting. The lady experiences ego dissolution under moonlight. We must not confuse mythology for decompensation." But the boundary between folklore and diagnosis was already blurring. The Viennese press coined a term, Die Wolfskrankheit, the wolf sickness. Kraus died in 1901 during a hypnotic episode. Her autopsy report, filed by Dr. Joseph Breuer, documented nothing unusual. Yet a night guard reported finding claw marks across the wooden floor of the morgue the following morning. Investigators dismissed them as scratches from a gurney wheel. The official report concludes abruptly. Possible animal intrusion. The final page bears a water stain shaped like a paw print, a coincidence noted by archivists decades later. The Institute kept the case files locked in a separate cabinet until 1947. St. Petersburg to Vienna, 1910-1914. The most infamous file, Sergei Pankajev, known to history as Freud's Wolfman. His case notes fill boxes at the Freud archives, dreams of white wolves perched in trees, childhood terrors transformed into psychoanalytic cornerstones. The leather binding of his case file is worn at the edges, handled by generations of psychiatrists. Pankajev sought Freud's help around 1910. Their sessions became foundational for modern dream analysis. Yet local rumors in Odessa predated the science. Neighbors believed the family's timber trade wealth had been bought with animal souls, a superstition documented in an Odessa Gazette letter to the editor, dated July 1913, titled, "The Wolves Still Wait." The clinical testimony is well known among psychoanalysts. Less circulated is Freud's note after the final visit. The patient fears mirrors during the lunar phase. The handwriting grows smaller toward the bottom of the page, as if Freud hesitated to record the observation. Whether symbolic or literal, archivists later found small mirrors covered with cloth in Pankajev's apartment after his death in 1979. His caretaker told a researcher he would cover them each month like clockwork. Dust had settled in the corners of the frames, undisturbed for years. By then, the line between folklore and psychology had blurred beyond recognition, each generation copying the same belief under a new name. In the margin of the final case summary, a handwritten note asks, "Patient cured or merely renamed? Cluj, Romania, 1923." A leather-bound ledger from the Cluj Psychiatric Hospital contains the meticulous records of nurse Anna Balin. Her handwriting grows tighter as she documents 5 soldiers returned from the First World War. Each claimed their faces itched beneath fur on certain nights. The paper is water-damaged at the corners, but the words remain legible. These notes, rediscovered in 1972, bear a stark red stamp, censored. Under Nicolae Ceausescu's regime, the records were allegedly suppressed due to folk superstitions undermining state atheism. The musty scent of old paper filled the archive room when researchers finally unsealed the files. Each patient described the same auditory hallucination, paws pacing the ceiling. Balin wrote in blue ink, now faded to gray. "It is not contagion. Still, the moon disturbs every ward." Hospital records show restraint orders doubled during full moons. A metal tag labeled patient belongings contained 5 silver crosses, confiscated upon admission. The soldiers had carried them, believing silver offered protection. Balin noted, "They grow agitated when the items are removed." Years later, this exact language would reappear verbatim in a Universal Pictures script draft margin. Kurt Siodmak's handwriting, photographed in USC's special collections, shows he copied phrases directly from a translated medical text supplied by a Romanian-born colleague at the studio. The last page in Balin's log ends mid-sentence. The hospital closed in 1951. When restoration workers opened the sealed ward in 1989, they found deep scratches in the plaster ceiling. London, 1935, rain pattered against the windows of Bethlehem Royal Hospital as the night shift began on February 17th. The incident report, preserved in the hospital's administrative archive, details the aftermath of a security breach that occurred shortly before midnight. A man found wandering Hyde Park barefoot 3 days earlier had been detained under the name Thomas Bevington. The admission form noted bite marks on his own forearms. In the hospital ledger, a line in red ink stands out, "Patient claims lunar visitation, requests Silver Cross for restraint." The witness statement from ward nurse Elsie Hawker survives in police report Nasani no 14135. "He begged us to chain him during the moon, else he'd hunt again. I thought he was taunting until the night he tore the window grate free." The metal was bent like paper. Her signature trembles at the bottom of the page. No fatalities were recorded, but Nurse Hawker resigned within hours. The metal grate, photographed for the hospital's insurance claim, shows distortion consistent with extreme force. The laboratory technician wrote simply, "Mechanical means unlikely." Bevington's file stops after one line, "Transferred to private care, location undisclosed." Hospital records show no further documentation. A trace of mud on the final page was analyzed in 2008. It contained particles matching Hyde Park soil. 5 years later, Kurt Siodmak would request access to this file. According to visitor logs, hospital staff denied his request. The following month, he began writing the Wolfman screenplay. Los Angeles, 1939. The smell of fresh ink filled Kurt Siodmak's study as he compiled research for his new screenplay. Letters preserved in USC special collections reveals Siodmak corresponded with London psychiatrist Dr. Anthony Mitchell, requesting descriptions of men who believe themselves half animal. Mitchell's replies, typed on medical letterhead now yellow with age, contained case summaries identical to Bevington's record. Patient names were removed, but the details matched precisely. Self-inflicted bite marks, lunar fixations, unusual strength during episodes. In the margin of one letter, Siodmak wrote, "Not delusion, guilt, wolf as alter." The pencil indentation remains visible on subsequent pages. He would tell Variety in a 1942 interview, "The werewolf is us, the hunted human." The clipping shows Siodmak looking away from the camera, his face half in shadow. University archivists recall he carried a leather envelope labeled simply Bethlehem. Inside, 2 black and white photographs of restraints eerily similar to those later shown in publicity stills for the Wolfman. No record shows he returned them to the hospital. When asked directly about the resemblance, Siodmak replied, "Some details speak for themselves." A production memo dated August 1940 shows Universal executives debated the script's medical accuracy. One note reads, "Too clinical, needs more monsters, less psychiatry." Siodmak fought to maintain what he called the human bones beneath the fur. The studio marketed the film as pure fantasy. The props department built replicas from the photographs Siodmak provided, unaware they descended from evidence rather than imagination. Hollywood, December 1941. As The Wolfman premiered at Hollywood's Pantages Theater, Kurt Siodmak stood in the back, watching audiences react to his story. The Los Angeles Times coverage, preserved in studio scrapbooks, described unprecedented terror among viewers. The newsprint has yellowed, but the photographs show faces transfixed with horror. The film's lead character, Larry Talbot, shared Bevington's symptoms exactly: guilt, fog, and helpless transformation under the moon. Dr. Anthony Mitchell wrote privately to Siodmak on December 30th, "I see my patient in every frame." The letter was marked "confidential" in red ink. Universal Pictures executives, concerned about potential legal issues, attempted to distance the production from any real-world connection. A studio memo dated January 1942 notes, "All werewolf material to be classified as pure fantasy in press releases." The paper bears coffee stains from a hurried reading. Settlement records between Universal and Bethlehem Hospital remain sealed in studio archives. A single sheet photographed during a 1997 cataloging project contains the phrase, "Compensation for unauthorized adaptation of patient history." The film's success came amid wartime anxiety that gave it mythic power. Military psychiatrists reported an increase in what they termed lupine fixation among soldiers exposed to combat trauma. Sergeant William Danner wrote from a Pacific Field hospital, "After the film screened, 3 men reported dreams of fur, of control lost." For many viewers, the Wolfman was no monster. He was recognition. The film played for months to packed houses. Outside, air raid sirens echoed while inside. Audiences watched a man lose himself to forces beyond his control. Los Angeles to London, 1941, 1942. When The Wolfman completed its theatrical run, the studio archives reveal something unexpected: letters addressed to Larry Talbot, the fictional werewolf. A folder labeled Viewer Correspondence contains dozens of pages, some typed, others handwritten. "I changed too," wrote a man from Denver, "not into a wolf, but something I don't recognize." "The silver cane helps," another suggested. "Try wearing metal against your skin." Universal forwarded select letters to Siodmak, who kept them in a drawer, according to his secretary. She recalled, "He read each one, but never replied. They disturbed him." Meanwhile, Dr. Mitchell continued documenting cases in London. His private journals, donated to the Royal College of Psychiatrists in 1968, record increasing numbers of patients expressing wolf transformation anxieties following the film's UK release. The pages smell faintly of pipe tobacco, according to archivists. Mitchell wrote on April 17, 1942, "Cinema has named what these men could not. Whether this helps or hinders their recovery remains unclear." His fountain pen pressed deeply into the paper on the word unclear. The studio classified the film as entertainment, but psychiatrists on both continents began noting a pattern. Patients who had never articulated their dissociative states now had a vocabulary. I Become the Wolf entered case notes from London to Los Angeles. Siodmak seemed troubled by this development. In a letter to Mitchell dated September 1942, he wrote, "I meant to capture their pain, not spread it." The letter bears a coffee ring in the corner, suggesting Mitchell read it repeatedly. London, 1946. The scent of antiseptic filled hospital corridors as a new wave of patients arrived. UK Ministry of Health memos document an unexpected phenomenon, returning soldiers reporting symptoms that medical staff termed cinematic lycanthropy syndrome. Veterans described unexplained body hair growth, nocturnal restlessness, and growling fits under stress. The official case files, stamped classified until 1972, contain photographs of men with self-inflicted scratches and bites. The images are slightly out of focus, as if the photographer's hands trembled. Dr. Lavinia Crow, a psychiatric consultant to the ministry, wrote in a June 1946 report, "The Wolfman myth has entered pathology." Her typed assessment included a curious observation. Electric lights flicker during patients' episodes, even when power supply remains steady. Hospital maintenance logs confirm multiple reports of electrical disturbances in certain wards. An electrician noted, "No fault found. Disturbance coincides with patient agitation." In private correspondence discovered decades later, Dr. Crow expressed doubt that this was purely psychological contagion. Something physical occurs during these episodes. Equipment malfunctions, without explanation. Her research proposal to study the phenomenon was denied funding. The official response cited superstitious thinking incompatible with medical advancement. The denial letter bears a fingerprint smudge at the signature line. Hospitals across Britain began sealing any file referencing wolves or lunar behavior. The ministry directive, dated August 1947, stated, "Classification recommended to prevent spread of suggestible condition." The paperclip that once held these pages together left a rust mark shaped like a crescent moon. The pattern continued, unstudied, but documented in margins and footnotes, a medical footnote becoming its own diagnosis. Bethlem Royal Hospital Archive, London, 1968. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as film historian Robert C. Doyle signed the visitor log. His signature stands out in blue ink, preserved in archive records. He had come seeking background materials for a retrospective on Universal monster films, expecting nothing more than production stills. In the basement storage area, Doyle stumbled upon a mislabeled wooden crate, Restraints, 1935-6. His diary, later donated to the British Film Institute, records the moment. "Opened what I thought were prop boxes, found actual medical restraints." The handwriting grows larger, more urgent on the page. Inside the crate were iron cuffs identical to the ones featured in the Wolfman poster art. A small paper tag hung from one. TB, do not destroy. The initials matched Thomas Bevington, the patient from the 1935 incident. Doyle's notes preserved at the BFI archive describe faint claw-like scoring along the interior metal. He wrote, "Material fatigue cannot account for depth or pattern. A sketch in the margin shows parallel lines gouged into the metal surface." The night security guard's statement, filed the following morning, adds another layer. "When he opened that crate, I heard something breathe. Thought it was the ventilation system at first." Doyle photographed the restraints before reporting his discovery to the head archivist. The photographs appeared in the Journal of Medical Humanities, Volume 4, alongside an essay titled Clinical Origins of Cinematic Monsters. The black and white images show metal worn in patterns inconsistent with normal use. Bethlem officially denied the crate's existence after 1971, but the photographs remain, haunting in their mechanical clarity. London to Los Angeles, 1980-2000. The myth continued evolving across decades. John Landis's An American Werewolf in London, 1981, borrowed directly from clinical descriptions found in psychiatric journals. The production designer, interviewed for American Cinematographer magazine, admitted, We referenced medical files more than monster movies. The film's hospital scenes echo Bethlehem's architecture. Its transformation sequences mirror descriptions in Mitchell's case notes. The patient reported feeling his bones shift beneath his skin. A production sketch shows anatomical details drawn from medical textbooks rather than horror conventions. Kurt Siodmak, living in California and approaching the end of his life, granted a final interview to Film Comment in 1999. The recording, preserved at the Academy Film Archive, captures his labored breathing between revelations. "I met the man they called the Wolf at Bethlehem," he said. "He thought he was cursed, but he was ill. I wrote the curse because it's what people understood." The interviewer noted Siodmak's hands trembled when discussing the hospital. Film critics responded with unease to these connections. Sight and Sound published a 1982 essay questioning the ethics. If fiction redeems the patient, who owes him credit? If cinema exploits medical records, who bears responsibility? By the century's end, the myth had swallowed its maker. Cultural compassion now framed the wolf as metaphor for addiction, trauma, or mental illness, but the early files remained sealed, their contents glimpsed only through the art they inspired. After Siodmak's death in 2000, researchers found a silver cane handle among his effects, identical to the one used in the film. No documentation explained its presence. Bethlehem Museum of the Mind, London, 2005-2015. Rain tapped against gallery windows as the Museum of the Mind, successor to Bethlehem Hospital, unveiled its new Wolfman File exhibit in November 2005. Visitor logs show attendance doubled in the first month. Within 3 weeks, staff began logging unusual complaints. A temperature log shows cold spots near the display case. Audio tours reported static interference when passing the exhibit. Motion detectors triggered repeatedly at night, according to security records. Curator Dr. Helen Wright filed an internal memo dated January 12, 2006. Equipment behaves as if aware. Cameras malfunction when directed at the restraints. The document bears coffee stains along one edge. Her notes continue. We clean the glass daily, but fingerprints reappear, facing outward. Maintenance records confirm increased cleaning schedules for this display only. After numerous incidents, caseworker Martin Elias advised visitors to address the display before photographing it. His unofficial policy, recorded in staff training materials. Speak to it as you would a person. The equipment works better. Attendance surged as word spread. So did feigning reports. The visitor comment book contains multiple variations of the same experience. Felt watched from inside the glass. By 2015, an internal policy forbade nighttime cleaning of the exhibit. The memo, marked staff only, reads, "Final gallery check to be completed before sundown. No exceptions." The paper bears the fingerprints of multiple employees who handled it. The exhibit remains sealed behind glass, lights dimmed. A temperature sensor installed in 2011 continues to record unexplained drops during full moons. The digital readout flickers when visitors linger too long. London, 2016 to 2021. The Museum of the Mind's visitor correspondence reveals the continuation of unexplained phenomena. A folder labeled Exhibit Responses grows thicker each year. The paper clips rust quickly, according to the archivist who maintains the files. Letter Lannerperg 12, Topper 2017 from a woman in Manchester. After seeing the restraints, my son wakes at 3:12 a.m., growling. Window open though locked. The letter includes a child's drawing of a man with elongated fingers. Staff notes from July 2020 document recording devices humming at low frequency on full moon nights. Audio specialists found no mechanical explanation. One technician wrote, "Sounds like breathing through the speakers." A maintenance log from February 2021 records, "Glass pane fractured from inside, no cause identified." The replacement glass, installed the following day, developed the same fracture pattern within a week. Curators debated removing the display. Legal counsel advised against fueling superstition through extraordinary measures. Instead, a new label was added, "For research access only." The original restraints remain visible, though some visitors report they appear to shift position between visits. Scholars now treat the Wolfman file as a cultural contagion, a document that shapes reality by being believed. Dr. Sarah Marlowe, in the Journal of Medical Anthropology, wrote, "Every copy howls a little louder." Her research notes describe watching visitors approach the display as if greeting someone they recognize. One museum security guard, employed since the exhibit opened, told a researcher, "It doesn't like being photographed. I've seen 30 cameras fail in 16 years." When asked if he believed the display was haunted, he replied, "Not haunted, awake." I visited the Museum of the Mind last winter. Rain streaked the windows as I entered the West Wing where the Wolfman exhibit stands. In the glass case, the restraints looked harmless, smaller than legend suggested. The metal had darkened with age. A faint scent of ozone hung in the air, though the room had no electrical equipment beyond lighting. The humidity condensed on the protective glass. Behind audio guides, tape hissed softly. "Unprogrammed," staff said. A curator explained, "Some equipment malfunctions here. We've replaced it 3 times." Before leaving, I signed the visitor log like everyone else. Without thinking, I whispered, "Thank you." A guard nodded from across the room. "Most people do," she said. Her flashlight flickered briefly. According to staff, the sensors still detect movement at night, though no one remains in the hall. The last entry in the maintenance ledger repeats monthly. Sound recorded again, source unknown. The Wolfman began as a patient, became a film, and now exists as an exhibit, neither fully fact nor fiction. The case file remains active, not because the phenomenon continues, but because we continue to document it. Every retelling, from asylum to silver screen, keeps the story alive. The belief that guilt and loneliness can take shape under the moon, that somewhere, the Wolfman still waits for light to fade. The museum closes at sunset now. No one mentions why.